Let me start off by saying that both the DJI Spark and the Mavic Pro are both great drones, but depending on who you are, you might find one to be a huge disappointment or the other to be a massive overkill. As a filmmaker, as a video content creator here on YouTube, I want to share with you guys my perspective on which drone may be right for you. Now TLDR, if you've never flown a drone in your life and you're looking at one of these to be your first starter drone that is capable of doing more than just a few tricks, I would say go straight for the Mavic Pro. Size-wise, they both take up very similar amount of space. Just to give you guys a reference, I have the Peak Design 20L backpack and they both take up similar amount of divider space. And in terms of video and image quality, you'll be future-proofing yourself with the 4K capabilities of the Mavic Pro. Now to learn more about these two drones, definitely stick around for my full comparison and review. What's going on, hybrid shooters? It's Jason Vong, and I recently caught the drone bug. Like, I would literally try to fly my drone every chance that I can get. It's incredibly addicting and it's a lot of fun. And the best part is, in the recent years, the DJI drones have become a lot smarter, a lot safer, and more importantly, a lot easier to operate. Both the Mavic Pro and the Spark have active tracking, tripod mode, and other features that help make your drone footage look a lot more professional and a little more epic, which in the older iterations would have required a bit of a learning curve on the controls to pull off very similar looks. Both have automated return to home features, which means if you ever lost connection with the drone while it's in the air, it will be able to fly back to its takeoff position on its own. Both have obstacle avoidance, which means if it detects that it's close to something, it can prevent itself from crashing into it. Now, it's not completely foolproof and it's going to be dependent on a lot of factors, but as long as you're not reckless with your drone, the fail-safe measure will kick in. With that said, of course, you still need to know all the safety guidelines and be mindful of your surroundings before each flight. As long as you know what you're doing and you practice enough, you wouldn't have to worry about losing your drone or hurting yourself or hurting others around you. Now, if you're looking at one of these drones to be your first drones, you're gonna have to ask yourself a few questions. Like, what will be the purpose of the drone? How serious are you gonna get with it? What are you expecting out of these drones? Now, I know I made it sound like a relationship, but you're dropping anywhere between $500 to $1,200. You kinda need to be sure what you're gonna be using the drone for. If you just want to have fun, you want to be that cool person at the party with a drone, or if you travel a lot, you want to bring something, a little tiny little something that's inexpensive to film some aerial footage when you're traveling, you don't want the hassles, you don't want the hoo-haws, go for the Spark. It's nice, it's small, it's compact, and it's portable. The 1080p HD footage ain't too shabby, and honestly, the video quality is good enough for a lot of people out there. And unless you're an experienced video editor, you're likely not going to have a machine that can edit 4K anyway, so the Mavic would be an overkill. But of course, if you're looking for something a little professional, something you can possibly make some money with, higher quality, has a lot more control, then the Mavic Pro will be the best bang for your buck. Not only can you achieve professional results with it, you can also use it for leisure, for vacation, for travel, because of that friendly, foldable form factor. Honestly, I can tell you both drones took up the same amount of space in my bag, despite the smaller form factor of the Spark. Again, because the Mavic is collapsible, it makes the width to be very similar to that of the Spark. Now, regardless of whichever drone you decide to go with, I would highly recommend getting the Fly More combo. These kits provide an extra battery, which will increase your flight time. The Mavic Pro, you're gonna get pretty close to about 25 minutes per battery, while the Spark may be close to 15 minutes per battery. Trust me, before you know it, the low battery level warning will come up and the drone will be forced to return to home, so having these extra batteries will just prolong the fun. In addition to that, the Fly More combo for the Spark comes with a remote control, which, in my opinion, is insanely necessary. Having physical joysticks instead of using the touch interface off your phone makes the flight experience a lot better. And here's my advice, definitely wire your phone to the remote controller. At least for me, the image transmission signal was a lot stronger. Without the cable, it completely ruined the experience for me. It honestly felt like I was playing like an online video game, like you know what I'm talking about, like an MMORPG where you're playing this character, you're running to this large part of town with a lot of players, but you have severely high latency, you can barely move a few feet, you're dropping frames like crazy. And that's honestly what it felt like for me when I was operating the Spark with the RC controller through the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth over my phone. It was just that bad. And I have disconnected from my Spark before, and that was the scary thing because I wasn't able to reconnect with my Spark with the control or with the phone. So I literally had to watch it come home, and for whatever reason, it couldn't land because I took off near the edge of the sidewalk. So I was literally hovering over the edge of the sidewalk, and I had to wait until it pretty much the battery died before I can retrieve it. So yeah, bad experience. So again, highly recommend using the cable if you're an Android user. I believe the Spark will come with a cable for you. If you're an iPhone user, you're gonna need to buy a USB to micro USB adapter, which I have one link in the description box down below. By the way, if you've been finding a lot of the information in this video helpful, I would super greatly appreciate it if you guys can buy any of the drones through my Amazon links down below. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but a little bit of what you pay for will come back to me to help me continue growing this YouTube channel and keep making awesome photography and videography content such as this one. So definitely subscribe and hit the bell notification button if you haven't already yet. Alright, back to the review. Let's talk about the gesture controls on the Spark. Now, this is something that DJI was heavily pushing when they first announced the Spark. You can take off the drone and land the drone on the palm of your hand. And if you put your hand in front of it, you can control it like a Jedi. If you wave at it, it'll fly back and widen its distance from you to get more stuff in frame. And if you do a frame gesture, it will take a photo. And to be really honest with you, all that stuff is super gimmicky. Except the palm takeoff and the palm landing. That's actually pretty freaking cool. So when the gestures work, they work. When they don't, they really don't. And you really have no way of knowing that it worked other than the blinking lights on the Spark. But it really doesn't give me a lot of confidence when I wanted to take a photo of me. Now, I'm sure in due time the operator will be able to master the gesture controls on their Spark. But for the most part, that's not what I would get the drone for. You know, I don't need it to do some tricks. I just want to fly my drone up, look at some amazing scenery, capture it, and share it with my friends and family. And that, to me, is what I would get the drone for. You know, that's the fun part of the drone, being able to pilot it and record some cool stuff with it. So why did I return my Spark? It's simple, it just doesn't fit my need. As a filmmaker, as a video enthusiast, I value the extra controls that the Mavic Pro gives me. The ability to shoot in 4K is definitely one of them, but I also have the option to shoot in different picture profiles, different frame rates, control the white balance, etc. Whereas the Spark, I'm only limited to 1080p, 30 frames per second, and a default standard profile. In my line of work, we like to include some aerial footage in our wedding video, so to have control of our footage to match what we shoot with our professional cameras just helps make our work a lot more seamless. And because for me, both drones took up very similar amount of bag space, I figured with the Mavic Pro, I would at least have a lot more flexible options. Now, for you, it could be a different story. You probably don't need that much flexibility, or maybe you don't have the extra $600 for the Mavic Pro. Then in that case, go for the Spark. It's honestly still a very fantastic, amazing drone. But if you're a little more serious than that, then I would highly recommend trying to save up for the Mavic Pro. The holiday sale is just around the corner, and if you can pick up the Mavic Pro for cheap, I would say go for it because the value that you get out of the Mavic Pro greatly exceeds that of the Spark. Alright, so regardless of whichever you decide to go with, I would highly recommend checking out two of my favorite drone YouTube channels, Drone Film Guide and Man and Drone. Both of these YouTube channels have great tutorials, have a plethora, I've never used that word before, plethora, have a plethora amount of amazing tutorials teaching you how to get some amazing cinematic footage with your drones. As for me and my YouTube channel, if you have an interest in mirrorless cameras, specifically Sony Alpha mirrorless cameras, then definitely give these videos here a watch. I mainly focus on hybrid shooting and teaching people how to get the most out of their cameras in photography and videography. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.